Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramakgopa says his team is focusing on ensuring power cuts don't worsen over winter. Analysts have warned that Stage 8 rolling blackouts are a possibility in the coming months. Let's discuss the Energy Action Plan more. I'm joined by energy analyst Ruse Moleshe. A very good morning to you, Ruse. Thank you so much for joining us. We've heard this before, haven't we? That we're doing all we can. We even heard it from the president recently in his presidency budget speech that, efforts are being made and that, South Africans must not think that government is resting on its laurels and that they're not doing anything and that there's actually tangible evidence that something is being done to ensure that the power crisis, does not become a thing that continues. But yet we are in winter and we are, bouncing between Stage 2 and Stage 6. You almost wonder what informs the decision to put us down to Stage 2 on Sunday, and what informs the decision to put us on Stage 6 on a random Wednesday? What do we believe at this point?
What we know, we're certain about, is that we do have a supply-demand constraint in the country, and there's a huge gap in terms of the supply side. So any of the interventions that we keep making will make some difference, but until we have a decent recovery, either a recovery from the current coal-fired power fleet that is not performing in line with where it's supposed to be, or we have new capacity of supply, we are going to have challenges. From time to time, we will move from more severe stages to better stages based on the demand. Generally, during holidays or weekends, you tend to have relatively lower demand as factories and intensive users are closed down, and that becomes better a little bit. So hence, you will find that during the weekend, the stages are relatively lower. So that's what you will find. But in terms of there are interventions he suggested, but they will just reduce a little bit of the stages, but nothing significant at this stage.
I would imagine one of those solutions that have been presented that might not even make a dent in our crisis is this aid from China in terms of solar panels and the likes. This could have been something that could have been thought of, or at least explored a little earlier. Why are we seeing that only happening now? And how much of a relief can that give us in terms of reduction of stages? Maybe we don't go back to Stage 6 for a couple of months?
So we don't have the details in terms of what that intervention will look like, but it looks like it will be equipment that will assist with the hospitals, police stations, as well as schools in terms of reducing load shedding within those facilities. It will make some difference, but we really don't know how much of that equipment will be provided by the Chinese, which you understand is a grant, the terms of which none of us have seen. So there will be some difference. Obviously, demand-side management does make a difference, especially in terms of the peaking power, and it could reduce the severity of load shedding or by something like a stage or so.
Another matter that the electricity minister touched on, Ruse, is the case of diesel and just how much of the procurement will be required. He threw out a figure of about 30 billion rand, and that is potentially if you've got other generating units that do not come back, that we could actually even be spending more than 30 billion rand. Was that him just trying to not raise the alarm about how much money actually might need to be spent on diesel? Could we be in a position where we're spending a whole lot more than the figure he put out?
Yes, the more we have unplanned outages of power plants, which is what we're having right now, unpredictability, the more diesel we need to make up for that difference. And the way that we've been running these open cycle gas turbines is not sustainable because they are designed to operate during peaking hours or for emergencies. And we are running them as if they are normal plants. That, in the long run, may have an impact on their performance. And also in terms of the cost of diesel that you alluded to just now, that cost is also not sustainable. He referred to the 30 billion, which part of which will come from the tariffs from NERSA, part of which will come from the intervention or the assistance from National Treasury. That will be to the tune of 30 billion. He was indicating that that 30 billion may not be sufficient. That means that from a forecasting point of view, still I expecting to have a huge gap in the supply, and therefore those open cycle gas turbine will come in to assist in that regard.
Ruse, we'll leave it there with you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the South African Morning this morning. That is energy analyst Ruse Moleshe, just talking to us, of course, reflecting on Dr. Kgosientsho Ramakgopa's energy plan. Essentially, is his plan to ensure that we reduce, firstly, the stages of blackouts, but ultimately, and we can only but pray that this happens at some point in our lifetime, load shedding ceases to exist.